It's quite an amazing thing to be here and to see you. I remember when we first came here in 1987, and at that time we rented this space and the floor above us for $200 a month. And the other day I was visiting here, and lo and behold, Ralph Martin, who's sitting right in front of me, used to be a co-pastor with me, and Sheldon Calloway at the very beginning of Reconciliation Ministries. And so we hadn't seen each other for over 20 years, and so it was a great connection to be able to be back here. I mention that because of the fact that seeing this space return to this kind of an opportunity for bringing people together from both sides of truth was really a core part of what happened back then. And it's really connected to this idea of breaking bread together. Back in 1978, there was a group of us that were blessed to visit Israel, and we went along the Red Sea, not far from Eilat, and there we saw on the side of the road a man with camels that had taken the hood of a car and put a fire underneath it, kneaded dough together and was making pita bread. A little pot on this makeshift oven was making tea. So we sat down and were talking with him. And after the bread was finished, he took the bread and he began to break it into little pieces, and he gave all of us that were sitting there together a piece of this bread. So we were eating and drinking the tea. And after about 5 minutes, he said, "Now, we've broken bread together, we're friends forever." And in that particular moment, the symbolism behind it was so powerful and so obvious. But in that culture, the idea of breaking bread together is something much more than just this idea of eating. When you break bread with someone, it was also this idea of sharing friendship, making a commitment to truly be that person's friend. If there's anything right now that's needed on two sides of truth in the United States of America, it's the idea of restoring friendship. It's this idea of recognizing the fact that the greatness of our country doesn't come because of the fact that we've accomplished something great, but it's rather this idea of building up one another, breaking bread together, and recognizing that when these grains are brought together from many, many different backgrounds and cultures, and we're allowing them to be blessed and shared among us, powerful, wonderful, miraculous things can happen. My wife, who this kitchen is named after, Thelma, her baptism name was Michaela, after Archangel Michael. She would go out into the streets of Troost many times at 2 o'clock in the morning just to talk to the young ladies that were working the streets and the young men that were having trouble, and talk to them and appeal to them to be able to come and to talk with us. Or not a few nights they would be found sleeping on our couch. And in those times that I look back and I think about what's happening now, it's very, very much important to remember that the words of Christ are never so important as they are right now. Inasmuch as you do it to the least of these, my brothers, you do it to me. We applaud and we thank God for the wonderful things that are happening right now on Troost. We have to realize that with the external improvements, there's also an underside to that. And that's that we need to be very, very deliberate and conscious about expanding the sense of community, so that there's not simply a pushing away of people that used to be in trouble and in need right here on this corner. We recognize rather that that expanded need is going to be able to be extending the arms to be able to reach out to more people, so that truly this doesn't simply push the dividing line, but begin to transform the dividing line. And for that, each one of us has to begin to think about breaking bread. Each one of us has to think about creating a sense of village. Each one of us has to be able to think about, how do I truly develop friendship with people that aren't just like me? And for that, let it begin by inviting someone that you don't know to come and to share a meal at this place, and begin to specifically purpose in your heart to create a sense of village by breaking bread together. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
That there are many words that we would use to refer to people that we know in our life. Words for people that we work with, words for people that we work around, words for people that we come from, and words for people who come from somewhere else. Words for people who make us feel comfortable with ourselves and our surroundings, and words for people who make us feel uncomfortable. There are words that we use for people that we trust. There are words that we use for people who abuse our trust. Words are important, and they carry such weight. You know, in our trauma therapy work that we do at Reconciliation Services and in our social services work, people often are referred to as clients. In restaurants, normal restaurants, we would refer to people maybe as patrons. But Jesus had an incredible word that he used for all of us. In John chapter 15 and verse 15, Jesus said to a ragtag group of fishermen, of tax collectors, harlots, and scholars, Jewish God-fearers, and anyone he could talk to, he said, I have called you friends. Friends. Friends in Greek comes from the word philos, which at its root meaning means to belong to. This is more than simply, I belong to a neighborhood or a club or a place. But he used that word in a sense to communicate the vision that we belong to each other. Jesus called us all friends, and in doing so, I would argue that he gave us an alternative narrative just waiting to be lived out. We're to see our neighbor, and we're supposed to say to one another that we belong to each other, for we are friends. I had the privilege of knowing Thelma Altschul, also known as Mother Michaela or Matushka Michaela, and she was many things to many people. To many in the community, she was a grandmother, a mother, a helper, a consoler, a prayer warrior, a champion, and an advocate. And in the short time that I had come to know her until she passed away in March 2012, when she fell asleep in the Lord, mostly I knew her as a friend. Someone who made me, in some way, feel like I belonged, that we belonged together. And I think most people that knew Matushka Michaela, that knew Thelma, knew that feeling that when you were in her presence, you just simply knew you were a place where you belonged. People gathered around her and around Father Alexei when he was Father Paisius. When I first met him, he was Father David. He's had many different and wonderful names. Some I know call him still Father Troost, leaving very big shoes for us to fill. But people gathered around Thelma and David, Matushka Michaela, Hieromonk Alexei, and they often were people who felt that they had no place that they belonged in this world. They weren't just poor people, though, but they were people who were brokenhearted, people who desperately were looking for a place to belong, and that's something that we all share in common. Whether we're from here or not from here, whether we're rich or we're poor, at root, we all want to know that we're loved, that we have a place where we belong. And this, because of their radical love, became just that kind of oasis in the middle of a desert that had very little more to offer than shallow wells. And the church that's upstairs, and the subsequent work of mercy, this nonprofit that they founded, Reconciliation Services, at its core, at its very DNA, is a gathering place of belonging, a place where even strangers, even enemies, practice calling each other friends. Thelma's Kitchen is a nonprofit community cafe that has many objectives, more than we will take time to speak about here. Objectives concerning food insecurity and access to all sorts of different types of healthy food for those who very often live from pantries or from meal to meal. It has at its root the desire to offer a trauma-informed catalytic urban redevelopment, a redevelopment of the community that is not just about buildings and progress but it's first and foremost about people and about creating a space of belonging where all people are welcome. This place is about lowering the barriers of entry for people who need services and access to our many programs, social work programs like the ID program and our medicine cabinet program and all of the trauma work that we do, both individual and in group therapy. But ultimately, Thelma's Kitchen is a place where together we can reveal our true strength, one heart at a time, and we can live out our overarching desired impacts of this work, which is to restore dignity, to foster community, and to create advocates for this radical vision of friendship, of belonging, of sharing, of breaking bread, as Father said. Here we welcome everyone as equals, serving everyone and regarding everyone as having something of real value to offer, hidden strength, just waiting to be revealed. Whether you're rich or you're poor, whether you can pay the suggested donation price or you can't pay, whether you're black or you're white, you're from the east side of Troost or the west side of Troost, whether you're an immigrant or you've been here for generations or you're Native American, all are welcome here as equals. In doing so, we are working together in some small way on this little corner of the world to restore our human dignity, the dignity that we all have as being created in the image and the likeness of God. In Thelma's Kitchen, we live out this vision through the Donate What You Can model, where generosity is practiced as the antidote to the sense of scarcity that often clouds our intentions and skews our line of sight from seeing one another. Generosity is the antidote to that scarcity. In Thelma's Kitchen, we strive to practice true hospitality that is an antidote to exclusion, that barrier to friendship that all people feel when they feel like they don't belong, when they feel like other. And as we close today and move to our opening celebration, I want to invite you to join with us. I want to invite you personally, in whatever way that you can, to help us to reveal the hidden strength of our community and make 31st and Troost a gathering place where all belong to each other. Help us restore dignity. Help us foster community. Help us create true advocates for one another. Join us in practicing that radical generosity, hospitality, and forgiveness that Matishka Michaela, Thelma, did during her life. From this very day, from this very hour, from this very moment, let us each call each other, and even those who hate us, friends. For we all belong to one another. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much. Normally at things like this, you would close with a ribbon cutting. But rather than a ribbon cutting, we want to do something special where we can all participate together. So, we need groups of 3 or 4, possibly 4 or 5, to each kind of gather together at a table and grab a loaf of bread. Now, I'm a Serbian Orthodox priest, and in our tradition, when we celebrate something, we have something called a slava, which is a celebration where the whole community comes together around a loaf of bread, and we raise that loaf of bread, and then after a prayer, we break that loaf of bread together as a means of showing our friendship with one another. So, if I could ask Father Alexii to come forward with me and one loaf of bread with Father. Today we break bread together. Let us be friends forever. We honor the memory of your beloved Matishka Michaela. We honor Thelma's memory. We ask for her prayers and for the prayers of so many others that have served here and labored here throughout the generations, both known and unknown, especially those who are poor and homeless and who gave literally the widow's mite and whose names we shall never know. But we now join ourselves together to break this bread and in so doing officially open Thelma's kitchen. So everyone grab a bread and we're going to break it in half in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. Thank you to everyone who helped make this happen. Having broken bread together, now we are friends forever. God bless you. Thank you.